Hi everyone. We've had lots of people working on trigonometry this week, and though most people have got it, there are still a few people that are struggling. So I thought I would record this and allow people to watch it a few times. So when we've got a trigonometry problem, we've got one of two situations. We're trying to find an angle given two sides. So that's what's happened in this case here. We want that angle there. Or we're trying to find a side given an angle and a side. So in this case, we're trying to find this side here. Now we can do this without using a ruler in this case or a protractor in this case by using our calculators. And if we're using our calculators, we'll use the sin, cos, and tan buttons or for the sides, or the sine -1, cos -1, and tan -1 if we're looking for an angle. Now there's 5 main steps to doing it, and when we look at a problem itself, it looks relatively simple. You've got a picture that shows you the unknown. You identify what values are where and how they fit into the equation. You write the equation down, stick it in your calculator, and get an answer. So basically, there's only 6 things you end up writing down. But those 6 things require these steps, and there's quite a bit in each of those steps as we've been finding as we've been working through it. So let's have a go. So step 1, how to name a triangle. Here's step 1 here. We've got a triangle, and the first thing we would do is find the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the side opposite the right angle. So the right angle points to it, and we put HYP next to it. HYP is the hypotenuse, it's the longest side on a right angle triangle. The second thing is we'll find the adjacent side. Now to do that, we need to know what it's adjacent to. And in this case, it's adjacent to a reference angle. So the reference angle is one of the 2 remaining angles, not the right angle, one of the 2 others. And we pick one, and we call that the reference angle. In this case, we've only been given one angle. It's this 30 degrees, so we're going to call that the reference angle. Once we've found the reference angle, the other side next to it that we haven't named is called the adjacent angle. It's called the adjacent side. And adjacent just means next to. So far, we've named the hypotenuse, we've named the reference angle, and we've named the adjacent side. So 1, 2, 3 things we've named, which only leaves one more thing to name, which is this side over here, and we call that the opposite side. It's the side opposite the reference angle. There it is there. Now underneath, we're going to label the things that we've been given according to these names. So next to ADJ, we're going to put 3. We're not going to put hypotenuse down because in this case it hasn't been given to us, so we're not really that interested in it. Next to opposite, we'll put X. Here it is here. And we've been given an angle, so we're going to call the angle 30 degrees. That's our reference angle. Sometimes it's written with theta equals 30 or angle equals 30. In this case, I've used this symbol because it looks like an angle. Right, so that's step 1 done. Step 2 says how to identify the correct ratio to use. Well, we have 3 ratios. We have a sine ratio, a cosine ratio, and a tangent ratio. And SOHCAHTOA is a mnemonic that helps us choose the right one. So if we have an opposite side and an adjacent side, we look at the last 2 letters of each part of the mnemonic, and you see this part here has an O and an A for opposite and adjacent. That tells us we use tan. And I've written it down over here. Tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. Tan, opposite over adjacent. Sine, opposite over hypotenuse. Cos, adjacent over hypotenuse. So depending on what we've found in our question, will depend on which ratio we use. In this case, we've got adjacent and opposite, so we need tan. Once we've done that, substitute these values into this equation. So where we've got angle, here's the angle here, put 30. Where we've got adjacent's on the bottom, we'll put the adjacent value, which is 3 on the bottom. Opposite's on the top, put the X on the top. So that's the end of step 3. Step 4, now we need it in a form that the calculator can understand. So the calculator requires us to have X on the top and everything else on the other side. So to get this 3 on the other side, if it's on the bottom, put it on the top. If the 3 was on the top, we'd stick it on the bottom. And it really is as simple as that. So 3 is on the bottom, put it up here. That's what we're going to put in our calculator. And here's the calculator button presses here. For 3, 10, 30, we would go 3, press the tan button, press 3, press 0, and press equals. And that'll give us an answer of 1.7320508808, which is the length of side x. So we're trying to find x, put that into the calculator, it'll give us x, and it'll give us this length over here, which is what we're looking for. So over here I've written that down, and I've rounded it to, rounded it incorrectly, I might add. Let me fix that up. 1.73 to 2 decimal places. And we've done with our problem. So that's what a fully laid out answer would look like. Now I've done a few more with a few of the other ways that it could end up. So in this case we haven't got the opposite being the unknown, we've got the adjacent being the unknown. We've got angle of 40, adjacent is x, opposite is 3. And we're still using opposite and adjacent, so that's still the tan ratio. Put the angle where the angle goes, put the adjacent side on the bottom, put the opposite side on the top. This time the unknown's on the bottom, so when we rearrange it, the unknown will go to the top on the other side, and we'll take tan 40 to the bottom of the right hand side. Whenever we move across the equal sign, we move to the other side of the vinculum, which is that line there, but in a fraction. So it's gone to the bottom, x equals 3 over tan 40, and if we're going to put that into our calculator, we go 3 divided by tan 40 equals, gives us 3.575260778. That digit there tells us to round up, so we get 3.58 to 2 decimal places. If this length is 3 and this angle is 40, this length here will always be 3.58. Okay, let's have a look at another problem. This time we've been given the hypotenuse, an angle, and we're looking for the opposite side. So here's the angle, here's the hypotenuse, there's the opposite side. Opposite and hypotenuse, if we go back to our ratios up here, opposite and hypotenuse, we use the sine ratio. Sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is on the bottom, the unknown's already on the top. Take that to the other side, put that into our calculator, there's the button presses there, and we'll find that x is 2.5. So if the hypotenuse is 5 and the angle is 30, we'll find that this length here is 2.5. Okay, one to go. This time the angle's the unknown. So as per every other time, find the hypotenuse, find the adjacent, find the opposite, write them down over here. The angle is x, the hypotenuse is 8, the adjacent side is 5. We don't care about the opposite side because we've got no value for it. Here's our cos formula, because that's what we use for adjacent and hypotenuse. Now, we've got the adjacent hypotenuse, we put it here. We don't want cos x, we just want x, so we've got to get rid of this cos somehow. If we take it to the other side, it becomes cos -1. So for angles, we're looking for this button on our calculator, and then put 5 over 8 next to it. So the way we do that is above the cos button, you'll see that there's cos -1, and we get to it by pressing shift, or on some calculators it's called second. Then press the cos button, then press 5 divided by 8 equals, which will give us this on the calculator, and what should come out is 51.31781255, or rounding that to 51.32 to 2 decimal places. And then we're done. Now if you can do all those steps, and if you're comfortable with them, when you get to the test, you should find this rather easy. And it does get easy, so that you can get it down to just doing those steps there once you have a bit of practice. Thanks everyone.